أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبي الرحمة محمد بن عبد الله وآله وصحبه أجمعين. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, once again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa tahiyyatun min indillahi mubarakatun tayyiba. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Series 2 of Islamic mode of finance for retail or consumer or personal banking, all mean the same. In the first series of Islamic mode of financing, we talk and explain about one of the most common used mode of finance by Islamic banks, which is murabaha, cost plus profit transaction. For more information, please kindly refer to series 1 in this regard. Today, bi'idhnillahi tabarak ta'ala, we will talk about one of the mode of finance used by Islamic banks as well, which is lease and lease to own. Lease with promise to own. In Arabic we say Ijarah wal Ijarah Muntahia Bittamleek, or Ijarah wal Iqtina. So my brother, my sister in Islam, in this type of transaction, we may say that we have two types of lease arrangement. The first one is the common lease arrangement, normal lease arrangement. I rent your house for a certain period of time. When the period is end, I give you, or I return your house back to you. This is common. Means it's not meant to own the property, it's not meant to own the asset. And the other one is a lease which is meant to own the property at the end of the lease agreement. And this is what we call Ijarah wal Ijarah Muntahia Bittamleek, lease and lease to own arrangement, or lease with promise to own, or Ijarah wal Iqtina. So my brother, my sister in Islam, what is Ijarah? Ijarah in a simple term refers to a lease, Ijar. It refers to transferring the right to use someone's property, someone's car, someone's shop, etc. for a certain period of time as per the lease agreement, but not the ownership of the assets. You lease it, you rent it, but you don't own it. Rather, the use of right, haqqul intifa' only to the asset that you will be given. You have right to use the asset. This is what you call haqqul intifa', but you don't own the assets. So in this transaction, as per the Islamic banking system, we will try to, as we said before in series 1, our objective is to focus on explaining the basic concept of these transactions without going deep into technical issues, so that we can understand. So for that I'm trying to simplify it, I'm trying to summarize it without, as I said, going deep into technical issues of these transactions. But we'll mention the basic things. The idea is for my brothers and sisters all over the world to understand the concept. So for this transaction, as per the Islamic banking system, the customer will approach the bank expressing his desire to own or to acquire a certain property or a certain asset. The bank will acquire that property as per the promise, per the undertaking given by the customer. The bank then will lease that asset or that property, house or car, whatever, to the customer as per the lease agreement for certain period and certain rent amount. The Islamic bank and the customer will sign a lease agreement, and that lease agreement will stipulate all the provisions, all the conditions related to this particular transaction. According to this transaction, the Islamic bank will be called Leas, Al-Mu'ajjir, and the client or the customer will be called Leasi, Al-Mustajir. So my brother, my sister in Islam, there are important notes to be taken into consideration regarding this type of transaction. There are many, but I will mention only few. I will mention only three. As I said earlier, our focus is to explain the concept, not to go without going deep into the technical issues. So one of the important notes, or the first important note that we have to take into consideration, the whole ownership or the whole leased assets should remain in the ownership of the bank. Means during the period of Ijarah, during the period of the lease, only the right to use will be given to the customer, not the ownership of the property. The second important note to bear in mind, all the liabilities emerging from the ownership shall be borne, shall be bear by the bank. All the liabilities emerging from the ownership of the asset should be taken care of by the owner of the property, by the Islamic bank, such as insurance, such as general maintenance, etc. The third important note that we take into consideration, the rental must be determined. We have to know how much the rental is from day one at the time of signing the contract. We cannot just leave it like that. If, let's say, we fixed every 6 months we'll review the contract, so from first month to 6 months we have to know how much I have to pay. So after 6 months we review the contract. We may increase the price, we may decrease the price. It depends. I hope the concept is clear. So my brother, my sister in Islam, since we said earlier there are two types of Ijarah here. One is normal and general Ijarah. I rent your house for a certain period of time. When the time comes or finished, I just return your house back to you. And the other one, which is not meant to own that property. The other one is meant to own the property at the end of the Ijarah period. And that is called, as we said, lease and lease to own. Ijarah wal Ijarah Muntahia Bittamleek, or Ijarah wal Iqtina, Ijarah with promise to own the property. So what is Ijarah Muntahia Bittamleek? What is lease and lease to own, my brother? This refers to the right to use the assets on a lease basis and own the same assets at the end of lease period. Once again, Ijarah Muntahia Bittamleek, lease and lease to own, means or refers to renting a house on lease basis, on Ijarah basis, and owning the same house at the end of the lease period. In the end, I will own the house. And this, my brother, my sister in Islam, I rent a house with the promise that at the end of the period, I will own this house, will belong to me, will become to me, will belong to me, right? This can achieve through the following means. One, a promise by the bank or Islamic banks or by the owner that it will sell at the end of the period of the lease agreement. The bank may give the promise to the customer, to the client, that it will sell the property to the customer for a nominal price, for a nominal token. Number two, a promise by the Islamic bank or by the owner of the property that it will give that house as a gift to the customer for no consideration, just a gift. Number three, a promise by the bank that it will give that house to the customer as a gift, provided the customer has paid all his installments. So these are the three things that Ijarah and Ijarah Muntahia Bittamleek, or lease and lease to own, can be achieved. The first one, a promise to sell it to the customer for a nominal price, for a token. A promise to give it as a gift for no consideration. The third one, a promise to give it as a gift provided the customer, the lessee, paid all his rent or all his installments. So this is important. In all these cases, my brother, my sister in Islam, it is important to understand that we said that can be achieved through these three things. But it is important to understand one of the conditions for this, that we have to have a separate document evidencing that. We cannot consider that lease to own or the period at the end of lease agreement, the house will go to the customer automatically. We cannot do that. We have to have separate agreement, separate document evidencing that. We cannot put them together. So we cannot consider the we cannot consider that promise to own or promise to be given as a gift as an integral part of the contract of Ijarah. Cannot be. So we cannot have any clause in the Ijarah document to indicate those things that I mentioned. So that has to be documented in a separate document. Means we have to have two independent documents. We cannot bring them together. This is very important to understand for these type of transactions. The Ijarah document should be separate, and the promise to give for nominal price or gifts for no consideration or gifts provided the client or the lessee paid all his installment, his rents. This must be documented separately in a separate document. We cannot consider, we cannot put them together in one document. We cannot put it in the Ijarah and in the Ijarah Muntahia document. They have to be separated. And the second one will be signed immediately after the expiry of the Ijarah. Cannot be signed, before. After the expiry of the Ijarah, then we sign that one. That separate document, we sign it. Now I'm selling to you for this amount, for $1, for $2, for $3, whatever they agreed, right? Now this is a document I'm giving you as a gift, as hiba. Now this is a gift. Now you have paid or your installments, so take it. This is for you. So that another documents for this process should be signed after the expiry of the Ijarah arrangement, Ijarah agreement. So my brother, my sister in Islam, to conclude, it is allowed in Sharia that Islamic banks sign a separate document to gift or to sell at nominal price the leased assets to the customer. This is allowed in Islam, as we mentioned. The validity of this type of transaction is subject to two basic things. This is our conclusion. We have to understand it. The validity of this arrangement is subject to two basic conditions. The one, the agreement of Ijarah should not have the clause regarding the bank's promise to gift or to sell that property to the customer. This one we mentioned before. This is one of the important conditions for this arrangement to be accepted from Sharia perspective. The agreement of Ijarah should not have any clause regarding the bank's or the owner of the property promise to gift or to sell that property to the customer. Rather, it should be a separate agreement, separate arrangement, as we mentioned. The second condition, the promise to gift or sell should be unilateral. Should be unilateral. Unilateral means from one side only, one-sided only, and binding on the promisor. The one who gave the promise should be binding on him. Unilateral means one side only. I give you the promise. I will give the promise. Not to be bilateral. Bilateral means I give promise, you give promise. So from Sharia perspective, this will become like a contract, which is not allowed. Which is not allowed in this situation. It's not allowed. So the promise to give the house as a gift for no consideration, to sell the house for nominal price, for a token, to give the house as a gift, provided the client paid all his rents, his installments, that promise must be unilateral, from one side only. In this case, from the bank, from the Islamic banks, will give promise that if you do pay your installments, then end of the contract, I will sign another agreement that to which we will state in that agreement that the house now I'm giving it to you as a gift, or I'm selling to you with nominal price, whatever they agreed, or I'm giving to you since you have completed paying your installments. So the promise here cannot be bilateral, cannot be from the both sides, should become from one side only. These are very important conditions for this type of transaction. I hope we comprehend the concept of Ijarah and Ijarah, Muntahia, Bittamleek, lease and lease to own, or lease to be, or lease with promise to own the property. Inshallah, I hope that we understood the concept. Bi'idhnillahi tabarak ta'ala. Until I see you in the series 3 of Islamic mode of financing. أسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يتقبل منا ويرزقنا الإخلاص في القول والعمل. اللهم اكفنا بحلالك عن حرامك واغننا بفضلك عمن سواك. Ya Allah the merciful, make what is halal lawful enough for us, as opposed to what is haram, what is unlawful. and spare us by your grace of need of others. Allah wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Barakallahu fikum wa barakallahu fikum. Barakallahu fikum.